Hey everybody, welcome to our September Database Security Office Hours. I'm your host, Richard Evans. I'm a product manager of Oracle Database Security, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Pedro Lopes.
Hi.
Lopes. Lopez. Lopez. Don't say it with a Z. You'll send it to the wrong person. We've got
Yeah,
lots of Lopez's, but only a few Lopez.
that's true.
So we're going to talk about DBSAT 4.0 today and the release that we had last month here. So just to kind of get us kicked off here, we do hold these sessions on the second Wednesday of every month. This was a little different because we were busy last week, so we went ahead and pushed it a week. But we do have announcements. We do have a technical topic. You can ask anything you want to ask. I can't guarantee we're going to be able to answer it, but we'll do our best. And we can always follow up afterwards. So you can go to asktom.oracle.com and check out the several years worth of material we have out there. I will share that link here in the Zoom chat as well. So you can register if you're not already registered. Let's jump to some announcements here. Every month I put kind of our notes, our links, the things we talk about on this GitHub repository. So you can go check that out. It's kind of a cheat sheet for everything we've talked about on our Ask Tom session. So you'll see we've got a September one that's got the links to DBSAT, where to download it, the blog, the documentation, all that kind of relevant information for you there. And then we always talk about patching. Hey, you've got to stay on top of those patches. Every quarter, patches come out. They include bug fixes, but also occasionally some new capabilities. Last month, we talked about how I think it's 19.28 release, the July release, has the new Oracle Database MFA capability in it. So that came out in the release update. Stay on top of them. Oracle.com/security-alerts for critical information. Fleet patching and provisioning if you're trying to patch a large number of databases. And then MikeDietrichDE.com for kind of all things related to database patching and upgraded. Mike Dietrich's the expert there. So we've got some new kind of updated capabilities in the data masking capabilities in Enterprise Manager. So Enterprise Manager 24 AI, came out almost a year ago. It was December of last year. And we are on release 1, update 4 of that. And so for our part, our data masking and subsetting pack that's a part of the Enterprise Manager platform there. We've got some substitute masking formats, new drop-down windows that make it a little bit easier for you to select the table, schemas, columns. We've got some new masking formats and sensitive types as well there. So for our customers in Mexico and the Netherlands, we've got you covered there. And then auto assignment of masking format. So when it finds that file, that column, and it identifies it as like a social security or a credit card or a phone number, it'll try to auto assign that masking format to it for you. So if you want to get your hands on data masking and subsetting, Live Labs, it's where it's at. Check out our Live Labs on it. You can use that QR code or just go out to livelabs.oracle.com and search for data masking. You'll find the data masking lab out there along with, 40 other labs as well. One of them we're going to talk about today, and Pedro's going to kind of walk you through it as well. So we've got a hands-on lab for the Database Security Assessment tool, DBSAT, and it's going to help you understand the state of your database. Hey, it's a snapshot, a point in time of the security. It's going to give you a great report. You can go to livelabs.oracle.com, search for DBSAT, and go through this lab yourself. QR code there on the screen for you as well. So if you want to use that QR code or just go into livelabs.oracle.com is easy as well. And we've got 40 plus security related labs out there on the Live Labs platform. More than half of them you can do on our dime. So you can spin them up, learn something new in as little as 15 or 30 minutes. If you're working on a project and you want to refamiliarize yourself, or you want to kind of play with a tool like Database Vault or TDE or Key Vault, Live Labs is a place to do it. It's really a great platform for you to learn on. And speaking about learning, join us in Las Vegas. We've got hands-on labs. We're running two of these sessions because they were so popular. Be a data security superhero with Oracle Data Safe. We've got two sessions of that. We've got six or so sessions that our product managers, customers, dev leads are delivering on database security. And so join us for those. You can find those in the session catalog at oracle.com/AI-world. And then we've got the demo grounds. So I'll be in a couple of the presentations, kind of co-hosting, and then I'll be spending a lot of time in the demo grounds. So stop by the demo grounds, say hi. I'm gonna try to have some stickers. So we'll see. We'll see if I can just sneak some stickers in and give out some, not necessarily Oracle stickers, but computer stickers for your coffee cup or your laptop. Everybody likes stickers. So hopefully we see you in Las Vegas, October 13th through 16th. Hey Pedro, we're gonna turn it over to you now, sir. We've got your session all queued up.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you for inviting me for being here in the Ask Tom session. It's really great to be able to finally speak about the new things that we just shipped with DBSAT 4.0. I will go through the new stuff. I'll do a demo, but I will spend a couple of, I don't know, three to four slides on why assessing database security is important, and maybe kind of recapping a bit what is DBSAT for people that might not know what DBSAT is. So yeah, just so we can sink ourselves into this problem that DBSAT aims to help us to address. When we store data in databases and when we deploy databases, there are, of course, multiple risks. And these risks can come from many directions and at different times in the life cycle of deploying an application or a database. It can become, you can get into risks when you deploy your databases. So are the DMZ set right? Are the security lists, the IP addresses being blocked like they should? Do you have backups? Did you set the backup policies right and all of that? So at the deployment time, you can introduce some new risks. Same thing when you configure. So if you deploy a database, an Oracle database, and you start to play with some parameters, and as you dive into all these things, you'll notice there are dozens of parameters, more than 125 parameters that can affect security. And of course, if you just keep the database as it was deployed on day one, it will become vulnerable because there will be patches that you won't be applying to discover new vulnerabilities. You will, of course, get into configuration drifts because things will be changing along the way. So this is another point where you introduce risks. Of course, then as you start adding users or you start to manage users, you'll get into other types of problems. So you might add users to the database, might grant them more privileges than they need because, well, it was just simpler to do so. Users then can make mistakes. Their credentials might be stolen and be used in a fashion that they weren't supposed to be used in the first place. Of course, then this becomes a problem because you will have users, overprivileged users with access to your sensitive data. Of course, well, you run a system, you add data, you might think, well, there's no sensitive data in this application A. The reality is that it's very rare that you find a database that doesn't contain any sensitive data. It might not look sensitive for you. It might help the attacker to gain some more visibility into the type of things you were doing. So once you add sensitive data, you need to worry about data copies, privacy, the volume draws, who can access this data, can the admins access sensitive data that I'm storing in the database. Once you connect the database or an application to the database, the threat surface increases a bit, of course, because then it's not just about protecting your database, it's about protecting your applications as well. So applications, if they are properly written, following secured development lifecycle methods, well, they should be fine, but the reality is that that is rarely the case. And we end up with applications that are vulnerable to SQL injection attacks or other types of attacks. And that leads to your sensitive data being exposed to users via channels they shouldn't be. And of course, if these things are badly configured, there will be ways to bypass the application access control and get to the data. And now with the advent of AI, of course, we are seeing different uses of AI and directly connecting to databases. And if you don't put proper controls in place, if you don't act, if you just wait and see what will happen once an agent connects to your database, don't do that. You'll need to start learning about protecting and securing data from AI agents. Otherwise, I'm sure you'll get unauthorized data access. I'm sure your data will be leaked because we are seeing those things already happening, and it will very likely just increase the likelihood. So, and of course, there's a lot of things that we can put in place to address these risks, mitigate these risks. We know that the attacker just needs to find a gap and try to break in to steal all your data, while we that are protecting data need to be consistent and need to cover all the gaps. Okay, so if we get something unaddressed, for sure that will be exploited. Of course, we want to know what and how our systems are configured, and that's why assessments are very important and should be executed. So some considerations for us on this topic. The threat landscape is dynamic. So that means what we know about the threats today might not be true tomorrow. And yesterday's security posture is not enough for today's risks. So that means we need to constantly try to find what changed, what is new, what are the new risks, and address those. So it's important to assess because you'll get to know that. We also know that there are consistent and continuous changes in environments. Can just be because you are rolling out a new update to your application, so you had to change something in the database, you created users, you added new columns, you removed privileges, added other privileges, you integrated the application with something else, you are just revamping, you are moving to the cloud, so there are many, many, many changes. And I think it's the only constant thing is the change, right, in IT. And of course, over time, there will be configuration drifts. So that means even if you define a secure baseline, there will be for sure cases where you apply a patch or you do a change again, or you are doing troubleshooting and you assign a specific role to that user that you forget then to remove. So if we don't keep our configurations under control, it will lead to increased risk. And of course, then people introduce risks. We know that sometimes things are done accidentally, sometimes deliberately. So insiders pose a risk as well, and we need to be cautious and understand that these things might happen. Assessments are also important because regulations mandate assessments, right? So in some cases, I can give you an example on EU GDPR. Whenever you change the way you process data, for example, you need to do an impact assessment that requires evaluating all the changes and the risks that were introduced by introducing that change. And that is true for many other regulations and standards. Okay, so doing a vulnerability assessment or security assessment is often part of regulations and standards. Of course, then if we run assessments, it will reduce the window of exposure. So that means you will identify a lot faster what is happening and try to fix before you get into trouble. And also, if you run assessments, if you get audited or if you were really a victim of a breach, you can prove due diligence. So I'm doing assessments, I'm doing the best I can to secure. Well, it can still happen, but at least is monitored and you show it's being managed. Okay, so it's very important to run assessments these days. The bottom line is you cannot secure what you don't understand. It's key to have visibility. And if you do these things proactively, you'll identify risks before hackers do. So moving now to what is DBSAT. So if I'm managing databases with critical data, or if I'm responsible for managing or securing Oracle databases, I need a way to systematically identify, assess, and prioritize security risks and sensitive data exposure so that I can mitigate those risks and reduce vulnerabilities. And I can also use this to demonstrate to all my stakeholders that my environment is secure and well governed, right? So this is where DBSAT can help. So DBSAT is an Oracle provided command line free utility, or I should say provided for free with Oracle for Oracle customers with an active support contract. But it is designed to help you evaluate and improve your security posture. So you run this on an Oracle database. It will identify potential security risks by assessing the configuration of your database, users, their entitlements. It also shows you the policies in place, what type of things you are missing, and also gives you visibility into security controls that you might not even be aware that exist, and also over your sensitive data. And in the end, it will provide some actionable recommendations so you can act and mitigate those risks. Okay, so the main goal is really to help you improve your database security. It's quite easy. So it's you run DBSAT collect to collect data. You run DBSAT report to analyze the collected data and generate a security assessment report. And you run DBSAT discover if you want help from DBSAT to get started discovering sensitive data. That's pretty much it, okay? So the collector will collect metadata on users, roles, privileges, security configuration, policies in place. And it will help you by generating an assessment report that contains a summary and then subsequent sections where findings are rated using different status levels like low, medium, high, advisory, evaluate, and pass. And then you can, of course, should review, and not can, you should review the high risks, you should review the medium risks, you should review the evaluate ones. Because usually when we say evaluate, it means that DBSAT alone could not understand if the information is presenting, it is presenting, if it poses a risk or not. A good example of this is, well, there are some users with a certain privilege or system privilege. Is that good or bad? Well, in some cases, we might know it's bad and we flag. In other cases, we don't know. It might just be necessary for the user to have that privilege. So if the privilege is granted to public, maybe that poses a risk, right? But so these cases are the ones where we flag or DBSAT flags as evaluate. And of course, you should spend time going through the evaluate ones because missing those mean that you are overlooking some of the potential risks that can be there in the database. So we do provide these 100 and more findings with remarks, and we map the checks against Oracle recommended practices, the CIS benchmark, and STIG rules. We also map the checks or the findings to GDPR articles and recitals, but GDPR is a regulation, not really a security framework. So you should read it as, okay, so the technologies that are presented here will help me address these articles and recitals. So at least you know to what things you should be looking into to address those concerns. The discoverer, again, discovers sensitive data by looking into metadata again, so column names and comments metadata to discover sensitive data. It will do this by using what we call sensitive types, where we have regular expressions there that go after the column names and comments, and we'll try to categorize the data and flag what it was identified, and also proposing some ways to protect this data. You can customize the discoverer expressions to find data that it is not shipped with a product, for example. So on the security assessment, it will help you again assess configuration by looking into applied patches, if you are encrypting data, auditing policies, OS file permissions, looking into the database configuration parameters, listener configuration, and so on. It will help you to identify risky users by going into database accounts, listing the status, their privileges and roles, and also will help you to discover sensitive data by telling you the type, where, and how much. Okay. With DBSAT, we include sample pattern files for Greek, German, Dutch, French, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. So if you have a data model written in these languages, you can use one of the provided files to accelerate your sensitive data discovery. You get these reports, summary, detailed information. They are prioritized and mapping to the regulations, as I mentioned, and it runs on 11G databases up to 23 AI, on premises or in the cloud. It doesn't matter much. You can even run it against standard edition if you want. Just keep in mind that some of the recommendations might point to features or options of enterprise edition, but at least you know that we've found the risk and there's a solution. So before going on to what's new, are there any questions, Rich, that I should answer now?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about like CVEs and how you guys address that? Because I actually just had a question about that as
The
well.
CVs, really?
Yeah, that
Okay.
better CVE visibility.
Yeah, so we added so this one is part of the new features of DBSAT 4.0 that we released in the actually the date shows July, but we released mid-August. And yeah, and providing better CV visibility is part of DBSAT 4.0. So what we do is we identify in which version you are and patch level, and then we know that you are missing some patches and you are not covering the published CVs, and we list the CVs there. Okay,
Okay.
so that's how we do it. And it is part of the info patch check now. We were listing patches before, and now we list also the CVs. I'll show some screenshots immediately after
Okay.
the in a
Now,
couple of slides.
does that get bubbled up into DataSafe? Are you going to talk about that in DataSafe?
It will also show up in DataSafe, yes.
Okay. Okay,
Yes,
cool.
yes, yes, yes.
Awesome.
So the major topic or the major theme for DBSAT 4.0 was really to update it for STIG 19CV1R1. So we did spend some time on that, adding new checks to address STIG 19CV1R1. We also, of course, we reviewed not just the new or the things that weren't there in the previous release, but we revamped everything. So that means we had to update the numbering schemes, the recommendations, the checks, all of that. So that is done. And in fact, it's very interesting because in the DISA STIG V1R1 for the Oracle database, there is one check that says, well, and by the way, run DBSAT to identify risks and make sure you go over them and address them, which is good. So DBSAT is mentioned on the DISA STIG for the Oracle database, which really shows the value and yeah, and the level we reached with DBSAT. So we also added some new stuff on user and entitlement assessment related checks, identifying stale accounts, flagging users with passwords that are about to expire, because this can become a problem in the short term. Having checks for locally managed users, database vault segregation of duties and integrity checks. So we had the database vault related check before, just one check, but we realized, well, it is checking so many things and we still have so many things we could check that it could be a good idea to split all of this. So in fact, we do have, I think, 4 different database vault related checks, one on auditing, one on segregation of duties, one on integrity, and another one that goes over the implemented realms, command rules, and all of that. We also started to flag proxy users in the DBA and PDB DBA check. And we improved the data reduction checks and a lot more. There are a lot more to this. And if you want to know the complete thing, you should check the release notes. We expanded container database coverage, so users with set containers. So now if you run it at the container level, you'll get some checks that will behave differently, and also the remarks and the details. We are listing PDB lockdown profiles. Patch visibility, we've talked about it. We added some interesting thing here. I value this and I pushed a bit for us to include. Of course, there are risks when we do these things. We include the documentation links next to the findings. When I say risks is, well, if the documentation link for some reason changes, we'll need to update DBSAT to make it work again. But yes, right now, if you run it on an Oracle database 19c or 23AI, you'll see a section where we show direct links to product documentation that can help you to understand the risk and address the problem. We added some advanced features to address some of the enhancement requests some customers were asking us to implement. One was as simple as whenever I used to run DBSAT, it will be generating always the report in all the formats available. And now you can just say -f HTML or -f JSON, and it will generate a report just in that format for you. Okay, so for customers that are using DBSAT to integrate a report with other tools, this is great. You don't need to generate all the files now, just generate the format you need for the job you want to perform. We also have a -d flag now to generate log files for troubleshooting for the collector, for example, and we can also help you limit the number of rows collected. So we know that in some cases, the security assessment can run for hours, okay? It's not unusual. And this relates to the number of database users in a database. If you are running, I think the customer I run with, I worked with that had more users were around 50K Oracle database accounts. And if you have 50K users and you have a lot of role grants and roles granted to roles, granted to roles, and granted to roles, yes, it will take time. And the way we've decided to address this problem was, okay, so you can limit the number of rows collected. So just say, well, collect 10,000 rows. So every query will collect at max 10,000 rows. At least it will finish the assessment. You'll get a note that the assessment is not running on the whole set of data, but at least it helps you to get something to start with, right? So you can you can go through the checks for the first 10,000 rows. And sometimes if you fix one thing, it will bubble up and suddenly a lot of issues disappear, right? So for example, if you revoke a grant from public, if this grant is made or you have several grants to public, if you remove them from public, probably a lot of other checks will pass anyway as a result of fixing this. So at least it will help you identify, it will help you move forward, and then you can run it again, okay? On the discovery enhancements, we added the JSON output. So we used to have just HTML and CSV. You also now have JSON. We improved the English pattern matching, and we improved the report to include now views and view columns. So if we have a match on views, we will also show you the views. And we also replaced, and this is a love or hate it thing, we got rid of using zip and unzip part of the DBSAT collect and report thing. So now what happens is whenever you run DBSAT collect, it will generate a .dbsat file that in fact is an encrypted file that you can pass as is to DBSAT report, no changes there. Once the DBSAT report analyzes and generates a report, then you will need to extract to see the report. Okay, so I'll do that on the demo, so you'll understand a bit better what do I mean by that. So new checks, I will not spend much time on this. You'll get to the deck later, or you'll be able to replay the webinar. But I'll go through those in the next slides. So as a sample finding, just for you to understand what we are done, the major difference now is that here you will have a documentation with links for the documentation for that specific finding. Okay, so all the other things are there. If you missed the two last updates, we also included here a sentence outlining the recommended action. This was not here in the earlier versions. And over time, I think this is getting better, and now with documentation links also to help you address the identified problem. So I have some screenshots here, and I'll just talk briefly about every new check and finding. So this is the info patch. So you can see now here that the absence of the latest patch leaves the database vulnerable to the following CVEs. So we list the CVEs here. And this is a way for you to understand a bit better the risk you are incurring by not applying the patch. Okay. So I usually say, well, if you see this in red, it's bad. Okay. you don't really need to go through the details. It's already bad. If you want to know how bad, yes, then you can check the CVEs and see what's going on. But yeah, it's something we introduced in DBSAT 4.0. Oh, by the way, and maybe I should mention that because of this, we will be releasing more frequent DBSAT updates, so you get the CVE list updated. Okay, so we don't fetch this dynamically. You might ask, oh, why don't you fetch this from an online repository? Yes, we could. We just want you to be able to run DBSAT on your production systems, and DBSAT doesn't have internet access. Okay, so we kept that out of the product, at least for now. So we are shipping the CVEs and all these with new DBSAT versions. So keep that in mind, and always go there to check for the latest DBSAT. Yeah, this one was coming from STIG. So these are password authenticated users. We recommend using centralized user authentication and authorization. We provide some recommendations here. New users who need to reset the password, identified users who haven't logged in since account creation. So you created an account, but no one logged in since its creation. So we are listing these things here. A summary of the sections with the number of checks you should be reviewing. This comes also from STIG. Checks for the location of data files, reader logs, and audit file destination. We're also doing this because of STIG. And check for known listener ports. We are also checking these because of STIG now. We added users with passwords about to expire. So you know this user will expire its password in 1 day. So that means at that time, unless there is some grace period, the user won't be able to log in, would be locked. That's good to know. We also add one for 23 AI databases that check for schema level privileges. So if you don't have any schema level privilege, you'll get a notice just for you to know and to be informed that this thing exists, and that you should be using that in favor of granting any system privileges. Okay. In any case, of course, I would say that it's always preferable to grant object level privileges. But yes, this is a good way for you to get started on that path. So forget about select any table. You can grant now select any table on a schema. We will let you know that this is now possible in 23 AI. And if you do that and you run an assessment, you'll get to know which of these privileges were directly or indirectly granted to a user. Okay, so this is aiming for helping you achieve the least privilege principle. On Database Vault, I mentioned this, so there are a lot of details on this, and thank you, Rich, for your collaboration on this on these ones. One displays whether Database Vault is enabled, details realms, command rules, their status, and protected objects. So you can quickly see, okay, so Database Vault is enabled in one PDB if you run it at CDB level. Found 5 Database Vault realms and 5 command rules. Here they are. The second one is on segregation of duties or separation of duties. So you'll see roles that, for example, were granted a certain privilege, but they were not granted the proper database vault authorization. So, for example, if you want to do a data pump export operation and database vault is turned on, you don't need only the execute on the database on the data pump package, but you also need to be authorized by database vault. So this will help you understand cases where you were granted the privilege, but you were not authorized, or the other way around. Okay. And then, of course, also we list users with database vault roles. And we say, well, of course, this is good, but we recommend you to have 2 users with admin option, because if something happens with one user, and that's the only thing you have, you might get in trouble. So yeah, you have one, please. Database vault configuration will check against if the database vault schemas are there, if there are no invalid objects, and we'll also check for dangling rules and rule sets. So you have a rule set without rules, or rules without that are not part of any rule set, we also list that. So it will help you to keep database vault configuration in shape. We also list now resource manager plans. Okay, so we check for users with execute on DBMS resource manager, and also with administer resource manager system privilege. And we list the existing resource plans, okay? Because you can really stop a database if you apply a bad resource plan to it, so it can become a problem. We also list users with a set container privilege, common users. So if you have common users with set container privilege, that means that they can move from one container to another. So is that how it should be, or is that a risk? It's evaluate, so you should review. We also check for allow group access to SGA if it's only the Oracle software installation user that can read and write from the SGA or not. So it's something that we are also checking. PDB lockdown profiles, PDB profiles in place if the perimeter is set, and if certain operations are restricted or not by these profiles. And on the usability and advanced options, here's some examples. DBSAT collect -R16K and you pass the connection. You'll see what it will do is it will limit the queries to fetch 16K rows. If you want to know more a bit the collector, what's happening during collector phase, and this can be especially useful if it is spending a lot of time, or if it's failing for some reason, you can run it with -D. It will generate a collector.log file, so you can investigate a bit more. And if you want to specify a certain output format for the report, you can say -F HTML, JSON, CSV, and it will just generate that report. And to extract the encrypted output files, you use DBSAT extract. So let me try here then to show you something. So Rich was mentioning Live Labs. So DBSAT 4.0 Live Labs is available since, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. So we did update the image, the compute image, but the markdown language, the cookbook itself was not updated until 2 days ago. So now it's updated. You can run exactly what I'll be running here from this point on, okay? But I'll do some things really simple so you understand how these things work and the new parameters. So here on this directory, I just have some environment variables, and I will show you this because I think there is one here that at least you should know about it. So I'm setting here some related PDB related settings, nothing to worry about. And I'm setting the GDK Java home to GDK 21 and put it on the path. Okay, so with DBSAT 4.0, the minimum required version for Java is Java 17. Okay, so that means if you just go with an Oracle regular installation and you plan to use the GDK that is shipped with the Oracle database, it will not work. So I can give you some workarounds. For example, and I'll give you now. So if you run DBSAT collect with the -n option, it will not encrypt the output. You don't require Java for the collector. So that is a way to sort of get around installing JDK 17 on a production database. The other way is you can always run DBSAT collect remotely, so you don't need to be on the server itself. However, if you run it remotely, it will skip the OS checks, okay? But that could be okay. So I'll be setting the environment variables here just to make sure this works. Okay, that is done, and I will make here a directory, and I downloaded the software from a different place, and let me just see if I can get this here, because I'm running this remote desktop thing. I don't like it, but we couldn't connect the SSH in time. So yeah, so I just unzipped the DBSAT zip file that I got from my Oracle support, and it's done. So now I do have here, sorry, now I do have here DBSAT 4.0 directory with DBSAT unzipped. And you'll see that if I do DBSAT, I'll tell you it's July 24, and you'll notice the new things here. Row limit, it's here. F output format is here, and DBSAT extract is here. And by the way, we also added the DBSAT -v just because that is the standard way to get versions for things. So you also get the -v, and you get the option to see the version. It's here, but we sometimes what we see that, for example, in support tickets, customers just paste from here or from there, and we need to ask the version. So maybe if we just ask the version, that will be easier. So that is something very simple and a minor improvement here. What we'll do now is I'll just do a collect here, DBSAT collect, and this is a similar thing that we always executed. We've done to execute DBSAT. DBSAT collect, you pass the username, service name, PDBHOL, and it will run for a while. So at this moment in time, it will connect to the database, issue some SQL queries. As I'm in the database host, it will also execute some OS commands to get OS related data. So I'll give it a password. I'll repeat it, and it will pack the collected data in a DBSAT file. So prior, if you remember, it was a zip file. Now it's a DBSAT file, but nothing changed here. So it's the collected data. It's here. When I do DBSAT report, as I used to do in the past, I just say PDBHOL. I don't pass the extension, as I was also skipping in the past. I'll do this. I can do, maybe I can do that. I can just do report minus F HTML, decompress the PDBHOL collected. It will analyze it, and it will encrypt again. Okay. So now I'm compressing or encrypting the report, and it's done. Okay, so the main difference now is that at the end of this, I don't get a zip. I get a DBSAT report, a PDBHOL report underscore report dot DBSAT. And now to extract this, and this is the new step, instead of just unzipping, I just do this, the DBSAT extract, PDBHOL, PDBHOL report with the password, the same password to unzip, and it's done. And now, yes, I do have the HTML. So I just asked to get the HTML. That's what I got exactly. So now, as I'm not in this is a remote, yeah, I could eventually open it instead of, yeah, but I think it will be easier if I just transfer it to my laptop so you can see it. So ignore this step. This is just for me to get access to the to the file, to the report, and I'll do it. I know I have it here. I'll just copy this and get it here, and I have it. And now I'll get access to the file. And yeah, this is the report I just generated. We've done some other minor things that you might not realize in the first time you run this. I think we moved high risk from the last column in the table to the first one. We did some improvements here on the time zone support. That's also there. We renamed basic information to database security basics, where we identify again the startup time. I don't think we had this in the past, so you know when the database, the uptime for your database. So if this is a production database and the uptime is I don't know, maybe 3 hours, maybe something happened, right? So that's a good thing to investigate. Features utilized, we did some revamping here. The CVEs, as you can see here, we list these things. We added the last password change here. So some other formats, some other minor improvements that I did not speak about. And some of them, I guess most of them will be in the release notes. Some of them are not even there. So there are just cosmetic changes. But yeah, so this is DBSAT 4.0. Again, documentation links, found two sample schemas, HR Scott. Okay, so predefined schema user accounts provided by the Oracle database. So now I have the documentation. I can go here and I see, okay, predefined. Okay, so about predefined schemas, and you'll get to know about the predefined schemas. If you want to know how can I drop a user, I bet you know, but anyway, yes, you can go to the drop user documentation or uninstalling sample schemas. Yes, you can also go there and uninstall the sample schemas. Okay, so we are adding this documentation in context with the findings and for 19C and 23 AI databases. So if you run this on an 11G or 12C database, we will not be showing the links, okay? So these are some examples of the new things we added. Let me see here. So I would go and check database configuration, the risks, green, evaluate. Let me check here the high risk. So you don't have a backup, no backups on the last 90 days. Okay, I'll need to deal with it. Network configuration. Found one connection established over an unencrypted channel. So there is someone connecting via SQL Plus to my database, and I'm not encrypting the network. So that can be a problem. And on the database security patching is the patching finding is showing risks. I can go here, medium. Oh, I do have one medium. Let me check that one. You can check the medium risks. Okay, diagnostic test. There's a file directory there, and the permissions are set like this, and they should be like this. I'll just move back to the deck. I'm conscious of time, and then I know I spent some time on the deck itself. So what else? And I mentioned in the beginning, of course, it's very important to assess databases, and it's very important to run it periodically, right? So every once in a while, we should assess our databases, and once in a while, I mean maybe once a week. Maybe for critical systems, you can even reduce that cadence. But yeah, so you should. And also, I mentioned also configuration drifts, and DBSAT cannot do that. But we do have tools that leverage DBSAT behind the scenes that can do that for you. So DataSafe is one of such tools. Part of DataSafe security assessment, DBSAT is part of that. So that means that you get the benefit of DBSAT in a cloud service that will help you to run recurrent assessments, identify drifts, report on the drifts, alert you on the drifts. So that means you get more into the proactive assessment mode, and also anticipating all these introduced risks that you might have been introduced whenever you change something in the database, or someone is poking around and making changes that they shouldn't. So you will be able to identify these very quickly with DataSafe. And DataSafe has security user assessment, activity auditing, collects audit logs and centralizes it. It can help you manage SQL Firewall for 23 AI databases, helps you to discover sensitive data going into the data itself, so not just like DBSAT columns and column comments. And it can also help you to mask data to anonymize non-production environments. And the good news is it works for on-premises, it works for OCI, it works for multi-cloud, it works for cloud at customer, OCI, GovCloud. In fact, I would say if you can connect to the database, if you are able to run the privilege script we have there, yes, you can register and run it. So it's a very great tool and can be really a way for you to assess not only your on-prem databases, but also some cloud databases that you might have. Okay. Yeah. So security assessment will show you a similar summary. It will identify top 5 common security controls you should have in place and how you rank against it. It will run assessment periodically. You can set a baseline, and if it drifts, you get alerted. You can also now group target databases and do assessments for a group of databases, which is really great. The user assessment focuses on users. So you just see a list of users. We classify the users, if the accounts are open, the last time they logged in, if they have audit records. Similar thing. You run an assessment frequently. You can set a baseline. If there is a drift, new user was added, new privilege was granted, you can get alerted. Okay, so this is very good, and this is where you get to proactive. Okay, you don't like a cloud service. We got something for you. You can use Audit Vault and Database Firewall. And for the Oracle database, you can also run security assessments with it. So that means that pretty much what I mentioned for DataSafe can also be executed with a VDF, Audit Vault and Database Firewall, for your databases. So similar thing, it uses DBSAT behind the scenes. It will just present the report in a different way, but gives you ways to filter data. So give me just the high risks.
Yeah.
And give me just the ones related to CIS, and set a baseline and report the drift. Okay, so these are things that are really great. If you want help to define or decide which thing you should be doing, so my recommendation is, if you just want to quickly assess the value we provide, I mean Oracle Database Security, via our assessment technologies, you can very quickly start with the Live Labs, the DBSAT Live Labs, or DBSAT standalone. So you execute it once, you go through it, and you see, oh, yeah, this is really great. Now, next thing is, I like it. So that's good. Now, what are my choices? Well, you can always run DBSAT manually, but if you want to do some automation, you can rely on DataSafe and a VDF. Okay, so there are some overlaps here, some things that are just done with DataSafe that a VDF doesn't do. But yes, it's a framework that can help you decide which thing you should be running.
Yeah.
Okay, so we provide you with choices, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times it's, hey, boss, I'm going to run this one database and I'm going to give you, like, we're going to talk about this. And then it morphs into, oh, well, we want this more frequently. We want this against 1,000 databases. We
Yeah,
want this against 5,000 databases. And it's like, I mean, I can't do that. Could I build
exactly.
something? Yeah, I mean, I might be able to build something. I can vibe code it today, right? But then I'm maintaining that. And so
Right.
it's like, okay, that's where that audit vault or that's where DataSafe comes in, where we've done that heavy lifting. You've got those APIs with DataSafe. You've got the target groups, the templates, all the things that you're looking for out of an enterprise class solution. But we started
Yeah.
with DBSAT on that one database to understand where we're at.
Yeah,
So,
even if you just run DBSAT to review your database security policies and
mhm.
improve those, I'm already happy, and I think you already moved a bit the needle, right? But let me just give you an example of DataSafe without naming the customer. A large European bank is running DataSafe via Python APIs, so they don't even go to the console, and they are assessing more than 1,600 databases automatically and getting the results in JSON and then doing post-processing of those
Oh, wow.
assessments with other
Yeah.
risk management tools. So yeah, great stuff here. Yeah, you can just run it yourself manually, or you can fully automate all of this, which is
Yeah.
really great.
It's great.
Really
It's
great.
great. It's really great.
So
So,
yeah, so my main call to action is, well, go and run it. If you don't want to really install it, you can just go to Live Labs, as Rich suggested, as I just showed you. There is a cookbook there, very easy to run. If you press the green button when you say start, you'll see two buttons. If you press the green button, you'll wait 10 minutes. We provision the environment for you. You can just then use it, as I was just showing you.